So I knew that I wanted to deal with my ancestry, but I didn't know where to start or where to begin. So I went on a trip. I went up to the Waterberg and went all the way down to Oshinene. And it's just insane that there's just nothing there. And that's what sparked, like I have to do something. My name is Isabel Katjavivi, and I'm a visual artist. So the first part also is that it's what I'm trying to do in this exhibition. It's not just for the heroes. It's the Namibian genocide. So that's inclusive of Nama Damara, the San, who were also within the area. I think there was some Ndonga people as well and everything. So it's for the nation that I'm trying to do this exhibition. And yeah, I mean, what I said, or how you put it, is exact, that it's like any deep wound or something. You can't just put a plaster over it and move on. Like, you'll need to treat it and look after it. You can't just, it won't heal. It will just, every now and again, an issue, it will get infected and things like that. And that's the same within the Namibian psyche, I feel. That this has been a grave wound that has been ignored, denied, all these types of things. And I think for a nation to move forward, we need to deal with those sort of wounds. And so the genocide is just one. The Namibian history has many wounds that need to be tackled and faced, but the genocide is one. In terms of the negotiations that are happening with the German government, I think it's a three-headed issue. So and reparations is last on the table. The first thing is that it needs to be recognized as a genocide by the German community and the government. That's the first thing. And the second thing is a formal apology to the people who suffered. And the last thing is the reparations. So I think there is already, with the Namibian case, is that it's more about healing. It's more about closing that door and everything. Like, and that's also what I'm trying to do with my exhibition, is that we need to understand fully what happened. We need to come to terms with it. And it's not about pointing fingers or anything, but it's about all of us understanding what happened, and closing that door. And I think the reparations in terms of money is the last thing, to sort of assist those who really suffered and everything. And the reparations is a tricky thing, I think, because there's just so many questions about money and what can money do and where does it go and who handles it, and so that's a tricky subject.
This formal apology that you speak of, why do you think that's taking so long to come to the fore?
Well, I think it has taken so long as a statement from the government. I think there are individuals who have apologized. I think when it was the centenary commemoration at Ohamakari, there was a minister from Germany who came, and before she went and did her speech, like, she actually sat down and spoke to those affected and chiefs and everything, and she decided she wanted to apologize. So she apologized at this thing, and when she got back to Germany, she was in a lot of trouble, because as a minister, you're speaking, on behalf of the government, and that wasn't part of the plan. So there are Germans individually who want to apologize. In terms of Germany themselves apologizing, I think it's probably taken so long because it's not, I mean, they've gone through so much with dealing with one genocide. And I think it's a big thing that they don't want to, or they hadn't wanted to condone this one and apologize and take full blame. Then, also their argument is that whole when the term genocide came into play with the UN and everything, we are completely outside of that time frame. So they're using all these excuses to say that, they're not responsible. And also the idea is that so many other colonizing powers have done similar things but aren't held accountable. So I think on the global stage, it was something they didn't want to deal with. But now they're realizing they have to, because it's not going to go away, at least.
Do you think it's a thing also within the community to sort of just let go, and then letting go also just being
moving forward?
Moving forward.
Yeah.
Could you maybe just
No, I definitely. I mean, and that was also something I think I wrote in my explanation of the exhibition that I mean, everything about the exhibition and also last year's work that I did, The Past Is Not Buried, we live, because these are wounds that are undealt with, we live with these issues in our daily lives. And then we question why we can't break away from a certain thing, why can't we move forward from a certain thing in terms of, not saying that the genocide is connected to the gender-based violence, but there is something within the Namibian psyche of undealt with issues that I think adds to that way of being. And that is why we can't move forward, because these things aren't dealt with. Once we're able to recognize things and heal that situation, it's something that we can all let go of in terms of communities and in terms of nations. You can't move forward while holding on to baggage. It's just simple as that.
How do you strike the balance between being emotionally connected to your art and being productive enough to finish it? So maybe you can just touch on that week that you needed just to...
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting balance. So the journey of coming to the idea of what I'm going to do is quite emotional, because I go out into the space and I research the space and everything. So finding out about all of those atrocities and just also being in that space and feeling that energy, that aura, because some of these sites are quite heavy. Then coming away from that and just planning what I need to do. And that's sort of where the emotions stop. And then I actually do the production part of it, and I remove the emotional side completely. And it's just about getting done what I need to do. So it's all about, like for this exhibition, producing what I had in mind was 300 heads, ended up being 213, but it's just like you're a production, I don't know, like a factory yourself, and you're just pulling out all of these. There's no time for that emotional connection in that moment. And it's only when I brought all the elements together within the space and I have to install them that it sort of becomes like a performance process. And it's just me in the space, and I'm literally putting sand down, moving it across like you're burying things or unearthing things, and placing down these heads. And with this exhibition, it was quite interesting because I had to go through a breaking process within it. And so I was sort of creating wounds on these faces by physically breaking them, which in itself is quite interesting because it's quite healing as well. And because of my ancestry and my connection to the subject, I found that very personally healing, very therapeutic. And being on my hands and knees, shifting sand, breaking faces, and trying to bring to life a scene of the genocide, all of it, physically and emotionally and everything, is quite overwhelming just in that one process. And I think it was 3 days of just being in the space. And after the opening, which is also just complete, just juxtaposed, because it's all, everyone being shocked and excited and telling you congratulations, and so you're also on a euphoric high in that moment, and the next day you wake up and it's done, it's flat. And it took me a week to just recover from that emotional low and high, or high and low. Well, it was low and high. And the bruises, I had bruises from being on the floor and everything. So it just took a week to recover from putting this all together.
Yeah. Just before we go into the next question, or before the next aligned question, I just wanted to break away and just quickly ask you about, I guess, the process during that week. Would you say that it was a depressive state?
Yeah, definitely.
How was the process of dealing with it?
I've dealt with depression myself in my life, but then it's weird when it's connected to your art and everything. So you come from that high of knowing what you want to do and succeeding in what you intended to do, and excitement that other people understood it, and then you're just thrown back into this flat line of being, in my situation, coming from the opening night where everyone's around you, and you go home, you wake up the next day, and I take my son to school, but then you're at home and you're alone. and you don't have that pressure of, I need to continue creating heads, I need to do this, to get that deadline for the exhibition. Your whole your immediate purpose is suddenly just gone, and there's no one there. And of course you can take yourself out. If you know how to sort of deal with those things, you can take yourself out and do whatever helps. But for me, it was just that solitude I sort of needed, though it was very depressive state. And just understanding that, okay, this is just temporary and I have to go through this and accept it to come out on the other side. And it really was a week, and then you sort of just crawl out and you're like, okay, next thing. And then you just continue doing what you have to do.
On the night of the exhibition, there were people that stepped on some of the faces. Is that something that you expected to happen, or are you planning to, like I asked you,
come back every day to fix?
Yeah.
I think for the heads, because I had broken quite a few and they were scattered everywhere, and the tension with the heads being all over the place was to reinforce the idea that we are literally stepping on our past and our present day, and it's we literally walk over these things constantly and sweep them under the rug like they don't matter and everything, and it's that symbol that I wanted people to face. And it was interesting because on the night you have people really cautious about where they step, and you had people stepping on them by accident and freaking out, and you had people just not even caring and just walking all over the space. And I think that's interesting, and also how that plays back into our normal daily lives. You have people who are very aware of all the elements that brought us to this day, basically, and are very cautious of it, very aware, and take that into their daily lives and how they interact with people and everything. And then you have people who just don't give and will do as they please, how they please, and they don't really care how that affects other people. And so I thought that was quite interesting. So that was all intentional. I knew there were going to be more broken heads than originally. Yeah, it was more the sand that was, made me a bit anxious, because the sand I wanted to be perfect, flat and laid out and everything. But after the first night and seeing all the footprints, and the footprints are completely testament to, our lives that we walk, and all, walking over the past and everything. I thought that was beautiful. So I decided not to come in and tamper too much.
Is there a reason behind using your face as the one and only face for your versus, maybe getting a group of Herero people?
Yeah. I think for me, using my face has come from a history of trying to explore my own identity and everything. In other works I've done, it's usually dealing with my own history, my own identity, my own heritage, my race, all those sort of things. So I've always used myself as that topic, and I feel like because it's a self-exploratory thing, it's also just easier to deal with what you know and what you can understand. So that's why I've always dealt with the self. But in this instance as well, I think it was also just in terms of practicality. I had an idea, I wanted to venture out into it, and instead of trying this process of trying to find people and create other molds, I was just like, let me just tackle this idea I have. I'm right here. Let me just put it together. Because I just felt like the other way would have just been slow and everything. So it's also a thing of urgency, like, it comes to head, let me see if I can do it. I'm here, I've got my mold of myself, let me do it. But I think in future I would like to see about creating other molds of other people. For this, I think it's just right now about putting a temporary face to what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to express. But I think in the future, in terms of allowing for a nation to feel included in the healing process, I think it would be good to get faces of all ethnicities and everything. Because again, it's the whole Namibian psyche that deals with it. It's not just a specific group. To me, that's how I get it.
How did your father feel about this process? Or like
My father is a very supportive person, and I think he sometimes doesn't quite understand when the idea is still in my head. I don't think he quite understands what the end product would be or anything, but he's there for me, like, I need to talk to this person, or I need to somehow find a way to carry so much sand from that area here or something, and he'll assist me where I can. But so once it's up and set up, that's his first idea of action. Oh, so that's what was in your head. But he's always amazed at what I was thinking, and then actually pulling it out of a rabbit hat, and there it is in essence.
So then, speaking from a heritage point of view, this is something, I was supposed to actually ask first if it's something that you want to talk about, because he is Herero, and you are mixed race, but then him being Herero, and obviously this is part
Dealing
of the
with
heritage. How was the discussion between the two of you? Was there like a grace type of thing?
Very, very fluid, very open and everything. He's the one who decided to open up and inform us, when we were younger, about his great aunt being one of the people who would have told him about all these atrocities and everything. And I think him as well as my uncles would have informed us about their grandmothers and everything having lived through this. And so I think it is an aspect of intergenerational memory. Like this is what is passed down, this information. And it's not only the information that's passed down, but it's within my blood. So I know growing up I had a lot of, I went through a lot trying to understand where exactly I fit in as a biracial individual, because growing up, you're not white enough to be on that side, you're not black enough to be on that side. But it's within my blood. And no one can, disagree on that with me. Being Herero is in my blood, and I have that connection to that. And through my dad giving me this information, the backstories and everything, and through other research, I feel like I have all the right to express this as well. And I think he completely agrees with that and allows me. In terms of my situation, I'm a privileged person to come from the family I come from, and I've always been a person who wants to do it on my own. So asking parents for things I've always hated, but in my mind I still have that freedom to leap, to take that jump, knowing that there is a net. Push comes to shove if I really make a mess of everything. And I think that gives me the confidence of tackling these things, of fully exhausting myself mentally and emotionally and physically with this subject, and just making sure that I can convey the message, knowing that, okay, if I fall, there is that. You don't take that leap, just aware of that, but subconsciously it's there. And that gives you that confidence to do that. So I think that's what helps me take that leap. And I think also I've grown up with so many amazing people who, from such a young age, know exactly what they're meant to do, know what their purpose is in life. And I've forever been searching for something. And suddenly, I think this has suddenly come to me. And I feel completely privileged to have an idea and a sense of what I want to do with it, and that sort of confidence in knowing that it's for greater good in terms of a group of people, a larger group of people understanding it and being aware of it. And so in essence what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to visualize, or I'm trying to allow other people to visualize the genocide through what I'm doing, and I think that's very vital. And I don't want to say it's my purpose, because give me 20 years and maybe it's done or something. But for now, it's a purpose, and I think that's what drives me to keep going with it.